Oh, it is a lovely day to talk about the greatest band in history.
There's an auction coming up that includes documents that shed new light on the breakup of the Beatles.
Yes. And there's also a gold record for I Want to Hold Your Hand that's included in that auction.
So let's unpack this a bit, because usually, when we talk about auctions involving the Fab Four, we are talking about the holy relics of rock and roll.
Oh, sure. The glamorous stuff.
Exactly, like a guitar pick used at Shea Stadium, or maybe a collarless suit from 1963.
Or a set list scrawled on a napkin in Hamburg. Things that have this aura of magic about them.
Right. But the centerpiece of our conversation today is, well, it's something completely different. We aren't talking about a stage or a studio.
No, not at all.
We're talking about a random domestic cupboard in Surrey, England.
It absolutely is the most mundane setting for something so explosive.
Just a cupboard.
Just a storage space, yeah, where someone was rummaging around, probably looking for old holiday photos or, I don't know, a spare blanket.
Right. And
Instead, they stumbled upon 300 pages of high-stakes legal history.
And that is what we need to get into today, because these papers, which are going under the hammer at Ewbank's auction house on February 26, 2026, they aren't just memorabilia.
No.
They are the receipts, literally.
Precisely. And this discovery, it strips away the glamour entirely. Because for 50 years, we have had this very romantic, very dramatic mythology about the breakup.
The legend.
The legend, exactly. But these documents move the story out of that hazy legend and drop it right into a cold, hard, documented reality.
I was looking at the lot title for the auction, and they really didn't try to dress it up.
Not at all.
It's just titled The Breakup of the Beatles.
Blunt, but accurate.
It feels almost sacrilegious to see it written down that simply. But what are we actually looking at here? I mean, is this just angry letters between the band members? Or scribbles of lyrics that never made it onto the albums?
No, it is much more formal. And honestly, much more brutal than that.
Brutal how?
We're looking at the full paper trail of the high court battle that officially dissolved the partnership.
Wow.
We're talking about the case of James Paul McCartney versus John Ono Lennon, George Harrison, Richard Starkey, and Apple Corps Limited.
Just hearing those names listed like that.
That's heavy, isn't it?
Plaintiff versus defendants. It still stings a little. It takes the greatest band in the world and turns them into opposing counsel.
It does. And that is exactly the insight these pages force us to confront. The narrative shifts from the artistic triumph of the end on Abbey Road to a reality that is ruled entirely by lawyers.
Lawyers and bean counters.
Exactly. These pages don't have an agenda. They aren't fan notes or memoirs written 20 years later to make someone look good.
Right. They aren't filtered through nostalgia.
They are the contemporaneous legal mechanics of how a friendship turned into a lawsuit. They cover the critical fallout period from 1970 to 1971.
So let's dig into why this changes the history. Because if you stop the average person on the street, or even a casual listener, and ask, why did the Beatles break up? They have a standard answer ready to go.
The usual story.
The usual story. It's the script we all know by heart.
It is dramatic, it is personal, and it is very character-driven.
Oh, absolutely. It is the story of John and Paul shouting at each other. It is the vibe in the studio during the Let It Be sessions.
Which we've all seen in the documentaries. Just miserable, cold arguing on film.
Yeah, the narrative of Yoko Ono sitting on an amp or Linda McCartney getting involved and the boys feeling like their clubhouse was being invaded.
And that story has power because it is about human emotion.
Yeah.
It resonates with us. It is about genius colliding with ego.
Sure.
But what the auctioneer, Andrew Ewbank, points out about this archive is that the usual story is really only half the picture. And honestly, it might be the less important half when it comes to the actual mechanics of why they couldn't stay together.
That is a bold claim. So if the romanticized version is, we grew apart creatively, what is the version found in the cupboard?
The version in the cupboard is unromantic, mundane, and brutally financial.
Money problems.
Massive money problems. It involves tax liabilities. It involves missing money. It is about a situation so chaotic that even the lawyers involved were questioning if the entity was worth saving.
That is wild to think about. We think of them as these gods of culture, but behind the scenes you have lawyers looking at the books and thinking, I don't know if we can fix this.
Andrew Ewbank put it perfectly. He said, this archive records the fallout that was commonplace when musicians were naive about business.
Naive is a good word for it.
They were being exploited by management, sure, but they also just didn't know how to run a multinational corporation.
Which brings us to the elephant in the room, or rather the apple in the room.
Oh, Apple Corps.
We have to talk about Apple Corps. Because in the fan lore, Apple was this beautiful hippie dream. I think Paul called it Western communism.
That was the phrase, yes.
A place where artists wouldn't have to beg for money on their knees. A creative utopia.
It's a lovely ideal, truly. But the reality, as shown in the paperwork, was a financial disaster of epic proportions.
Just hemorrhaging cash.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You cannot run a major holding company on vibes alone. You need someone to actually run it. And this is where the conflict stops being just about who wrote which song.
Oh, who gets the A side.
Right. It starts being about who is losing all our money.
And this is where the villain of the piece steps in. Or at least the person who became the wedge that drove them apart. We have to talk about Alan Klein.
Alan Klein is absolutely the poster child for the villain in this documentation.
He was the New York manager, right?
Yes, the manager that John, George, and Ringo brought in to clean up the mess at Apple. They saw him as a shark who could get them better deals.
But, and this is the crucial friction point, Paul was vociferously against him.
Vociferously. Paul wanted his father-in-law, Lee Eastman, to run the show.
So you end up with this impossible 3-against-1 split on who should hold the checkbook.
Correct. And that disagreement alone might have been survivable if it were just a difference of opinion. Bands fight about management all the time.
Sure, it happens.
But the documents reveal incidents that show just how dysfunctional the basic communication had become. There is one detail in particular regarding a construction project that really highlights this.
I was reading about this. This is the studio incident, right?
Yes. This is incredible. Paul McCartney discovered that Apple, his company, was constructing a second recording studio.
A whole studio.
A whole secondary recording facility. Now, you would think, as a major shareholder and one of the two main songwriters, he would know about a capital project of that size.
But he didn't.
He knew absolutely nothing about it. Imagine the betrayal of that. It is not just, I don't like your manager. It is, you are building major infrastructure with my money,
right,
and you didn't even tell me.
That moves it way past a personality clash. That is business negligence. It is partners making massive capital decisions behind each other's backs.
And meanwhile, while they're building secret studios and fighting over managers, the tax authorities are knocking on the door demanding answers about liabilities.
What a mess.
The accountants are trying to glue it all together, but the trust is gone. The documents show that the personal animosity was accelerated by this business failure.
It wasn't just that they were annoyed with each other.
No, they were trapped in a burning building together.
It paints a picture of extreme stress. Like, it is hard to sit down and write, "Here comes the sun," when you are worried about the inland revenue seizing your assets.
It certainly changes the context of those final years. You listen to Let It Be differently when you know the lawsuits were already being drafted.
Completely.
But there is another detail in these papers that I think is even more shocking. It involves the rhythm section, specifically the drummer.
I was hoping we would get to this. Because for hardcore fans, we obsess over dates and sessions. We know every beat. But there is a legal mystery regarding Ringo Starr that I had never heard before this auction listing came to light.
Most people haven't. And it dates back to 1962. We all know the story. Pete Best is the drummer. He gets fired. Ringo Starr is brought in just before they hit it big.
It is the most significant personnel change in rock history.
Unquestionably.
Right. If that doesn't happen, the band as we know it doesn't exist. So, logic dictates that when you bring a new partner into a potentially lucrative business, there was a contract.
A signing ceremony, something.
You would assume that.
Any rational business person would assume that.
Yeah.
But buried in this auction lot is a document revealing that there was no agreement signed, none.
Wait, literally nothing.
No paperwork. It was a handshake deal. Ringo Starr joined the band that would become the biggest musical act in history on a handshake and a prayer.
Is eternal, but the band was mortal and vulnerable to the same boring bureaucratic problems as any failing small business.
And the paperwork proves it. It is a reminder that even geniuses have to pay their taxes and sign their contracts.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Whenever you feel like knowing more about the Beatles, visit us at BeatlesRewind.com. It's the Beatles, all day, every day, 8 days a week. Cass, we'll do it again tomorrow. Right.
Absolutely wouldn't miss it.
Until next time.
When?
When you listen.
Your mind conducts its own symphony.